Do you find it difficult to turn your brain off at night to sleep? Do you feel as though there is never enough time to get things done? Do you ever feel as though the work you put in for the day is not enough? Do you lack the time to see your friends or participate in hobbies you used to enjoy? Do you feel as though you're constantly running from one thing to the next? Do you find yourself finishing or wanting to finish other people's statements? Do you wish I'd stop asking questions so that you can just get on with the book? Chances are you answered yes to many of these questions. But who cares? We all have stress and it's not going anywhere. So we might as well accept it, right? I once had a client tell me, I love my stress and I don't want to manage it. She spoke aloud the truth that so many of us are living, whether we accept it or not. We thrive on stress. It makes us feel driven to succeed, boosts our energy, and gives meaning to our life. Our conversations often seem to involve a competition of who's more stressed. How are you? Stressed. Me too. Then the parties go on to explain why they're so stressed, with the person who's worse off winning in our backward way of thinking. This twisted social story tells us that the busier we are, the more stressed we are, the more important we are. Take Seinfeld's George Costanza, who made it a point to look annoyed so that his boss would assume he was doing something important. The problem is not that you can't handle your stress. You're likely doing a fabulous job getting the things done that need to get done, meeting deadlines, and even attending a social event every once in a while, especially if it's work-related. But what is your experience of your life? Are you taking time to appreciate what you're working so hard to accomplish, or are you merely speeding through to tackle the next item on your to-do list? Perhaps more important, are you aware of the long-term impact that this stress-filled life has on you? Probably not. Or maybe, like most addicts, you know the consequences of your behavior but are so hooked on it that coming down from stress feels uncomfortable. With such a busy schedule, it's easier to stay amped up than deal with the detox of letting go. Remember the advertisement, "This is your brain on drugs"? It made a lasting impression. Unfortunately, it's not just drugs that cause your brain to feel scrambled. Unmanaged stress might be just as dangerous. Stress and drugs have been shown to have the following side effects: increased heart rate and blood pressure, increased blood sugar, breakdown of muscle tissue, decreased digestive functioning, ulcers, blood clotting, migraines, skin problems, premature aging, loss of brain cells, social isolation and loneliness, anxiety, panic attacks, depression, substance abuse, relationship problems, lack of focus, multitasking, and disengagement. A 20-year study by the University of London, completed in the early 1990s, found that unmanaged reactions to stress were a more dangerous risk factor for cancer and heart disease than either cigarette smoking or high cholesterol foods. Stress may even be as addictive as drugs. In addition to the hormones adrenaline and noradrenaline, stress releases the feel-good chemical dopamine, which encourages repeat behaviors by activating the reward center in our brains. This may be at the heart of many addictive behaviors and substance abuse issues. Although it may seem a bit extreme to consider stress an addictive substance, just about anything can become addictive depending on the individual who is responding. Addiction expert Stanton Peele has suggested that any habit can become excessive, compulsive, or life-endangering. According to Peele, addiction is not a label to be applied to specific things, but to an involvement a person creates in time or space. It's all about the relationship that we build with our habits of behavior. When we lose sight of our natural pulse, or worse, intentionally disrupt it to accomplish something, we trigger an adaptive response that becomes addictive. At its core, addiction is a dependence on some external or internal stimulus that causes either a feeling of pleasure or the avoidance of pain. Early-stage stress addiction usually attracts us to sources of stress to get something positive, a neurochemical satisfaction such as dopamine release, an intrinsic or internal reward such as feeling needed, or an extrinsic or external benefit such as money, power, or success. As our addiction progresses, however, it becomes less about what we might get and more about avoiding loss, which brings with it an even stronger tie to our basic survival mechanisms. Instead of intentionally turning to stress-providing stimulation for positive reinforcements, we require them to avoid the pain of its absence. We shift from triggering positive